I am so thrilled to be with you today, get the opportunity to stand before you and speak, and I am honored by being in your presence. I'm always very careful when I go up and down steps in church. Years ago, when I was a Baptist minister, my music director and I would come out from this side and go up on the platform. The choir came in from the other side. I missed the second step one Sunday, right on my face, bam, like this. So I picked myself and got up, and I was the first one up, so I got behind the pulpit and said, okay, you'll never see that entrance again. Go ahead and enjoy it. So everybody laughed and got the energy out of the way. Well, what the congregation didn't know was that I landed on my thumb like this, and I ripped out all this stuff in here. And I was at the point of tears the whole service, so I got through that. So I'm very careful going up and down. It was so great to have the kids in here in the early service, and I sat down with them. I think I scared the little girl on the end. But I sat down with them during the children's lesson. I used to do that off and on in my churches. And kids, well, like Art Linkletter used to say, kids say the darndest things. There's no doubt about that. One Sunday morning, we sat down, and I was about to do their little children's singing. One little boy had his arm up, and I knew if I didn't acknowledge him, he was never going to be quiet. So I said, okay, Charlie, what is it? He said, you know what my daddy said on the way to church this morning? And there was this collective gasp that went up from the congregation. And I said, Charlie, find me after church and you can tell me all about it then, okay? Well, I went up to his father after church and I said, buddy, you owe me big time. It's a lot of fun being a minister. It's never boring, and I love it. I've been doing this for 45 years. And I started when I was 12. How many of you remember Paul Harvey? Remember him? Here comes the news. I shouldn't try to imitate him because I don't do it well. But one of the things he became famous for was the rest of the story. You remember that? His son even put that into a book, all of his stories. I think there were like 85 of them that he put in a book. But that was exciting. I remember as a kid listening to him. I loved his voice. Well, I want to share with you this morning, Christmas, the rest of the story. Now, most people don't know a whole lot about the real story of Christmas. So it may shock you a little bit of some of these things that come up. But did you know that Jesus was not born on Christmas Day? Jesus was not born on December 25th. It's almost certain that he was born in the spring. Now, why do we celebrate it on December 25th? Well, the early Christian church developed their whole theology around the death and the resurrection of Jesus, and Easter and Lent during that time. And at some point somebody said, hey, wait a minute. All these other pagans around us celebrate the birth of their God. There's all kinds of parties going on and everything else. I think we're missing out. We need to pay some attention to the birth of Jesus now. So Christmas became a holiday of the church, or the beginnings of Christmas. They started paying attention to the birth of Jesus and began to develop the theology around that. So Christmas came along long after Easter did. A lot of people don't know that. You had a couple of weeks ago a Christmas pageant in here, I believe, with dressing up and everything. There's a big Baptist church in Fort Lauderdale that does this Christmas thing every year. My music director plays in the band for that. Have live animals on the stage and things like that. Do you realize that Matthew says absolutely nothing about the birth of Jesus? Mark and Luke tell different stories. So when you see the usual manger scene with the angels and the shepherds and the wise men and all of that, what we are doing is taking two different Christmas stories out of Mark and Luke and doing this. Putting all the characters into one, which is okay, that's fine. I think it's better if you know what you're doing when you do that. But a lot of people don't realize that there are two different stories. Just like, did you know there are two creation stories in Genesis? Get blank look. Go read it if you don't believe me. It's there. So Christmas has an interesting past as it is developed, and it's changed through the years. One thing I'm so pleased to see, and you have the candle for joy on the fourth Sunday of Advent lit this morning. You have the right candle set up here for Advent. Originally, the celebration of the Advent wreath, there were 3 purple candles and 1 pink one. You know why? At first, Advent was about fasting. So on the 3rd week of Advent, the fast was broken in a time of celebration, thus the pink candle. And then you went back to finish up the 4th Sunday. Nowadays, a lot of people who do the Advent wreath don't have a clue what they're doing, and they use red candles and red candles and white candles and blue candles and all kinds of crazy stuff instead of doing it right like you have. Congratulations. All right? That's one of the celebrations that kind of changed along the way. Christmas in the beginning was about gift giving and about caring about people. And now we've gotten so commercialized around Christmas time, buying presents and making sure that we get a better present for somebody who got us something. And there's that reciprocity that's involved in it. And there's a bit of competition that goes in. And people just go nuts buying things at Christmas time. How many of you remember Patch Kids? Remember those things when they came out? Well, the Christmas that those things came out, I was in Sears in Louisville, Kentucky, in the tool department, minding my own business. And I'm standing here with a hammer in my hand, looking at this hammer, and they are bringing a new shipment of Cabbage Patch Kids out of the stockroom in the back through the tool department. I'm standing here minding my business, and I look around, and here's this flock of women coming toward me. And I'm sure they were bank presidents and nurses and all kinds of folks there. And these women attacked this cart where these Cabbage Patch Kids were, and they were scratching and clawing and snatching and saying words I'd never heard women say before, all in the name of getting one of these Cabbage Patch Kids so they can give it to their kid. A lot of love in that, you know. I backed up with my hammer in my hand and watched this whole thing to make sure I didn't get involved in it. But I think some of that has lessened simply because people don't shop as much as they used to, at least outside. The online stuff is getting more popular now. I see malls closing everywhere. But the point is that Christmas is changing and has changed and will continue to change. You realize that most of our holidays have been decided by the government. You know, that we used to celebrate the president's birthdays, and now they all got crammed into one, and the legal holiday, the federal holiday, celebrates all of them. How would you like it if your whole family decided, let's put everybody's birthday together and celebrate everybody's birthday on the same time, which wasn't your birthday in the first place? You wouldn't like that very much, but that's what happens. Who's to say that we're not going to change Christmas again? So who knows what may happen there? The change is going on. So I wanted to share with you this morning, Christmas, the rest of the story. And one of the things that Christmas is about is love. Charles Fillmore said that love is the healing, harmonizing, binding force of the universe. Diamond would know that definition, I'm sure, after metaphysics class. Yes, yeah. So it is the healing, harmonizing, binding force of the universe. And Christmas is about love, right? We have the story in the Bible of the wise men coming, bringing gifts to the infant Jesus. That response of bringing gifts was about admiration and adoration and about love. And when we give gifts to others, it's about our sharing our love with them, that love going out into the world. It's important for us to realize that somebody didn't go out and discover Christmas out there somewhere and say, this thing called Christmas is going to put love in us. Quite the opposite. The love in us moved forth and created Christmas. You realize we created Christmas, right? Take ownership of it. We created it. It did not create us. The love of Christmas came from us. It did not come from the holiday. It didn't come from a celebration. It came from us. We know that love is an innate part of being who and what we are. We are God expressing in all things, and love is an inextricable part of that. And that is in us, and we need to remember that. And that's part of the rest of the story of Christmas, is the love that is in us that sustains things out in the world. Now, there's a second piece of this rest of the story about Christmas, and that is light. You think Christmas has something to do with light? Look around. How many of you have seen the 100-foot Christmas tree in the square down here? I walked by it the other day. It's amazing. Wow. And it's full of what? Lights all over the place. One of the reasons that Christmas was put where it was by the early church is because of the winter solstice, which is happening tomorrow, I believe. We always have drumming circle around that. But what is the solstice? The winter solstice. It's a time that is the longest day of the year, and for a moment the sun stands still and transitions into the shortest day of the year. But after that, the night gets shorter and shorter, and the days get longer and longer, which means there is more. What a time to celebrate the coming of the Christ child into the world, as a time when the light was coming back. No accident there. And if you want to learn more, Google's my good friend who knows everything, right? Google Saturnalia. Saturnalia was the Roman holiday that celebrated Saturn, who was one of their gods. And it was happening at this time of the year. And the early church said, look, all these pagans are having all these parties. They're having such a good time. Let's plug a Christian holiday right in the middle of it. And that way, when the pagans come to be Christians, they can still celebrate, and they won't miss all their fun and everything. That's part of how Christmas came to be there, because of light. Now, Jesus said to us, you are the light of the world. He didn't say, I hope you're going to become it. He didn't say when you get smart enough. He didn't say when you do enough good deeds. He said, you are the light of the world. When I was a kid, one of the main grocery stores in my little bitty town that I grew up in Mississippi was Jitney Jungle. Have you ever heard of Jitney Jungle? You have? Oh, great. He's the only one I've ever seen who knew about it. Well, they have a thing called S&H green stamps. Anybody remember those? Yeah. For every dollar, you get so many stamps. Well, it's my job to put the stamps in the little book. You know, it's about the size of a checkbook. And I do all kinds of creative things. Like I'd make a checkerboard, and then I'd turn the book upside down and put the stamps in there, so half of them were this way and half of them were that way. Just for fun. I can still taste the glue that was on those things to this day. And you'd take, when you got the books full, got enough books, you could take it to the store and redeem them for household toasters and silverware and things like that. Well, Jesus never said when you get enough S&H green stamps, you're going to be the light. He said you are the light right here, right now. So it's important for us to remember and to recognize that somebody didn't discover this thing called Christmas out there that was going to give us light. The light in us, which is the inherent, abiding presence of the Christ Spirit in us, shone forth into the world, and Christmas was part of what happened. So all of this stuff, it's really not about Christmas. It's about you. It's about the light that is in you and the light that will never go out. That's part of the rest of the story. Then there's a third piece to it, and that is life. Not only love, not only light, but life. Jesus said, I've come that you might have life. And I got the first service trained. I do this, that means you respond, okay? Jesus said, I have come that you might have life. And have it abundantly. Exactly. He didn't say, I've come so you can have fun. He didn't come and say, I've come so you can serve me. He said, I've come to show you what living is really all about. I've come that you might have life and have it abundantly. That is so powerful. That is so amazing. I often have people ask me, does Unity believe in reincarnation? And do I believe in reincarnation? And my usual response is, I think what most people believe about reincarnation is too limiting. I think it's more than that. I believe in eternal life. Now, reincarnation can be a part of that, but what I really believe in is eternal life. That which makes me me, that which animates this body, is eternal. There is no end to it. It'll be in some other form somewhere else, I think. But that life, the essential being of who each of us is eternal, and it does not change. My goal, and I've warned my family about this, my goal is to keep preaching until I have preached the last word that is mine to speak, and then I'm going to go poof, and I'm gone. I don't plan to die of some disease. I don't plan to die of old age. I plan to die of finished work. And I want to be gone. There you go. So if you hear on the evening news sometimes, a Unity minister disappeared out of his pulpit this morning. There I am, right? But the life that is me goes on. This vehicle, at some point, I'm going to put down, one way or the other. I'm going to leave it behind, and that which is me is going to go on to something else even more wonderful. Oh, I can imagine things. I want to be a little blob of energy that can move between universes in a blink. All kinds of weird stuff like that. My kids got used to that along the way, of all the strange things that Daddy talked about. But it's life in us. And that life that is in us is the Christ life. It is that which goes on and on and on. And that got put out into the world, and it showed up in Christmas as life going on and on together. That's a part of the rest of the story. Now, I've had a lot of people this morning already to say, have a Merry Christmas. And that's appropriate this time of year. Yesterday, I was in the parking lot outside of Walmart, and there was an old gentleman walking along kind of in the middle of the street. And this lady was trying to pull in a parking place, and somebody was, and she was, beep, 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 and it startled the old man. And I was walking by him, I looked at him and said, yeah, have a Merry Christmas, huh? And he said, yeah, and he laughed and went on. We often say, have a Merry Christmas. Would you join me in a revolution? Let's do this differently. I challenge you to do this and watch people's faces. Yeah, people are weird. You know that? Some people ask me how I'm doing, and I say, I'm getting better all the time. And they'll say, I didn't know you'd been sick. Why do you have to be sick to get better? Why can't you get... that's another sermon altogether. But we say to people, have a Merry Christmas. Why not say, make a Merry Christmas? After all, is Christmas not of our making? We made Christmas, and if Christmas continues, it will be because we continue it. So why can't we continue it like we want to? Why can't we make it like we want it to be? And the answer is, we can if you're willing. So I dare you. Say to at least one person before Christmas comes, make a Merry Christmas. And see what happens. Might be an interesting conversation you've never had before. Make a Merry Christmas. That's the rest of the story. Love. Our love. Creating Christmas. Light. Our light. Creating a Christmas. And our life. Going out into the world and creating Christmas. Make a Merry Christmas. That is the rest of the story. God bless you, my friends.